All right, well, welcome everyone. I'm Mayor Erica A. Stewart, and I am here to say that all of us are present here at the dais for the City Council meeting. And if you are willing, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you so much. And City Attorney, can you provide a report out for closed session?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The council did meet in closed session on one matter of real property negotiations with properties and agency negotiators and negotiating parties as identified on the agenda. Council provided direction as to price and terms, and no further reportable action was taken. The council will have an additional closed session following the regular session regarding threats to public operations and facilities. That will be a briefing with local law enforcement, and specifically our police chief. And there will be another opportunity for public comment on that item before the council adjourns to closed session.
Thank you so much. Next, we have the city manager report. Amazingly, or compactedly, I don't know what to call it. We have no proclamations today, but don't worry, October 7th, we have 4. So we'll make up for it then. All right, city manager, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you very much. And tonight's report from myself will also be fairly short and sweet, hopefully. First, we wanted to make sure that we are letting folks know that we want to hear from you about your experiences in our parking garages. And if those experiences especially are related to our new gated system, we know the systems are new. They have been in place now for a little while, and we want to make sure that we're hearing from people about their experiences. If they have any issues, questions, concerns that are coming up, we really want to hear from you. So please reach out. We have sandwich boards in the garages themselves with this request that people reach out and let us know what you think, how things are going. Please give us a call at 781-7230 or send an email to parkinginfo@slowcity.org and let us know how things are going, including, positives, negatives, things meeting expectations, not quite, or any issues or concerns you're experiencing. So please let us know. Thank you. Next, we wanted to highlight the fact that we are now back in school again. Our San Luis Coastal and Cuesta College are now back in session, and our police department has a lot of social media engagement going out on safety messaging for driver awareness and increased traffic enforcement to keep drivers slow and manage traffic the first week of school. So hopefully you're seeing that additional increased presence around our local schools. Cal Poly is nearing the start of their school year with student move-in beginning on September 11th. WOW, or Week of Welcome, beginning September 12th, and classes beginning for all students on September 18th. This means the return of our safety enhancement zone, which will be activated beginning September 11th and running through the 22nd. So just a reminder of what the safety enhancement zone is and what it means. It's essentially a way to help encourage safe behavior by our returning residents. And that means fines for noise and alcohol violations are doubled during this time frame. And so just keep an eye out. Hopefully people are aware of that. And we're really here to not only really welcome this time of year and welcome our returning students into the community, but also really raise awareness around increased congestion, traffic that seems to happen anytime schools start up again, and being aware about more people biking, walking, being around in our neighborhoods. For more information regarding our noise management efforts, they can be found on our police department's website under Respect Slow. So if you have any questions there, please check it out. Next, we have a couple of programs we want to highlight that our Parks and Recreation Department is working on and bringing forward. In partnership with Slow City Farms, the Junior Farmers After School program will be held on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 5 p.m. for kindergartners through 6th graders. That begins on September 9th and runs through October 30th. This allows students to learn both gardening and general animal care with a hands-on experience at our partners at Slow City Farms, and their property is located at 1221 Calle Joaquin. Hopefully anybody out there interested will take advantage of this new opportunity. And next, wanted to highlight our annual September Scramble will be returning on Saturday, September 27th. This is held out at our Laguna Municipal Golf Course. And this provides obstacle course with over 20 objects designed for ages 5 to 13 years old. But of course, that can slide up to whatever age you would like. Lots of parents participate as well. We see families out there doing laps and keeping track of how many times people go through the obstacle course. It's a really good time for everybody. So for more information on both of these programs, that's available at slowparksandrec.org, or feel free to give our staff a call at 781-7300. And finally, we just have a few highlights for our next meeting, which will be held on September 16th. That's our next regularly scheduled city council meeting. Just a few things to highlight from our consent agenda. We will be presenting an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with SlowCog and the city of Santa Maria to bring a pilot express transit service from Santa Maria into our city. So we're really excited to bring that forward. Next, we will also be bringing new advisory body appointments for unscheduled vacancies of our ARB, HRC, MTC, and I think the CBOA is maybe not able to be filled. There's a lot of acronyms in there. ARC, Administrative Review Board. I'm good, yeah. HRC, Human Resources Commission, MTC, Mass Transit Committee. The Construction Board of Appeals is still vacant, so we do need more applicants for that vacancy. So if anybody's interested or willing, able, check out our vacancy listings through our city clerk's office. Going on to our next slide here, we will be applying for a grant, the 2025 Land and Water Conservation Grant. You wouldn't know it from the title there, but the intended focus of this grant application is for playground equipment replacement at Duval Park. That project is planned, will be undertaken, but of course, if we're able to receive grant funding, it will help offset costs and free that up for other projects and help us bring even more vibrancy and amenities to Duval Park. And then finally, the two hearing and business items are moving forward, really helping us move forward on the California Taft Roundabout project through acquisition of right-of-way through eminent domain, and then a big thorough conversation about our council's response to the grand jury report entitled Round and Round with Town and Gown. So that's a preview of what's coming up on September 16th, and that's it for me this evening.
Thank you. With the parking updates or parking feedback, will the Downtown Slow Parking Committee be discussing that? Do either Vice Mayor or Deputy City Manager know about that? Parking Committee from Downtown Slow, will they be providing any updates or kind of running any surveys or anything?
Thank you, Mayor, for the question. The next meeting is on September 23rd. And I know the big item that they've got on their agenda is discussing the loading zone issue in our downtown. But that's the opportunity that they have to receive feedback from downtown business owners and what they're hearing from their customers in particular on anything related to parking. But I think what we're hearing right now is more related to that issue than any of the other changes.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
I would just add, though, to that the Downtown Slow parking, I forget what they call it, their task force has been engaged, I believe, all along the process and got a presentation from Donna King at their last board meeting. So my sense is that they have been involved intricately throughout the process and giving their feedback, and staff has been receiving that.
Perfect, thank you. And has there been, I noticed that we're talking about the SES and Questa and Cal Poly, but obviously K through 12 has already started. We had some emails about increased enforcement near the high school. Was there increased enforcement from our police department, transportation?
I think I'll
Traffic.
ask perhaps our police chief or one of our representatives from our police department just to confirm. I believe we do, as a general practice, increase patrol and activity around schools, especially during openings, but
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate the question. We do, and we plan for this all year round. So when schools approach time to reopen, we'll want to put that presence out there just to show people that we're out there enforcing, and also, you know, if they can see us and slow down, that's a benefit. Whenever we have Cal Poly coming back in session, we also organize that with some of our off-duty to bring in extra resources, not only to manage the traffic that we know we're going to experience. We also work in partnership with Cal Poly to keep that traffic moving throughout the campus, and then to also, again, kind of set the expectation of safe driving and driving behaviors around the community.
Great, thank you so much, appreciate that.
Thank you.
That was my question. I did notice that the farm games is missing because I will be a judge for farm games on September 20th. So just making sure you know that for the Farm City. With that, now we are ready for the public comment for items not on the agenda. So if anyone is in the audience has any public items, or sorry, public comment items not on the agenda. City Clerk?
We have one speaker card.
Great.
Dr. Lowe?
Do I just start whenever? Okay. Good evening. I'm Dr. Lowe. I've been a part of the community for a little bit over 3 years now. And so I'm coming just to recognize the importance of public record and also to share a concern. But I want to preface by saying I don't believe in any way that my observation is reflecting intended malice or that anyone was trying to hurt anybody. And in fact, I've had pretty positive perceptions of our local law enforcement, which I'm grateful for. But I did see in the last few weeks, there was a community member that was pulled over and, you know, committed some misdemeanors. Fine. The problem is that it was put on Facebook, and it seemed to me, and just my own research of understanding the importance of sense of belonging and community and the inner workings of public organizations, I understand maybe the police department's desire to let the community know what they are doing, but what they did was publicly shame a family, and then that family goes to school with my family, and then I saw those kids not come to school. And now that I am working in the mental health field and understanding that substance use is a mental health condition, I just feel that as a city, from my observations and efforts with equity work, probably not helpful to like blast people's substance use problems, and just being cognizant of the fact that we are in community with each other, whether you're marginalized or you're, you know, doing what you need to be doing to be in society. But just to bring awareness that there are impacts to kids, right? When you put their parents on Facebook and everyone knows their business. And I know, like I've heard such amazing things from Chief Scott, and I absolutely know that that is not what he wants to do. But I feel that if I don't come and let you know that the impact, the outcomes of doing things like that, I feel like we're failing our community. And so if anything, being in education for over a decade, it would have been a really great opportunity for police department to reach out to the school district and be like, hey, this family needs support, this family needs resources. And so I just think we could do better as a city. I feel like that's in the spirit of who we are here. And so I'm just bringing your attention to, I think, an area of growth and improvement, and an effort to not weaponize shame in our community. I think we're better than that. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Any other public comment?
No, that was our only speaker.
All right, and with that, we will move forward to the consent agenda. This is for items that are considered non-controversial. I know that we have at least 2 recusals, so I'm going to go to Councilmember Francis first.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to pull item 6C for additional discussion. And I also need to recuse myself from item 6J, because Cal Poly Corporation serves as a pass-through for my husband's grants, and I just want to ensure that there is no conflict.
Thank you. Councilmember Marks.
Yes, I was just going to say that I'd also like item 6C to be pulled, just so the public can have a better understanding of that item. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Boswell.
I'm also going to recuse from 6J due to my association with Cal Poly Corporation.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. And I will highlight that while I do work at Cal Poly, I am not paid for in any way, shape, or form through the corporation or CIE. So just thought I would highlight that since people may be questioning that in this moment. So with that, outside of 6C, the Police Department 2024 Annual Report, and Assembly Bill 481 Military Equipment Use Report, do we have any public comment on the other items?
Yes, on 6J.
Okay, thank you so much. At this time, if you'd like to bring them forward.
Courtney Keno?
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Courtney Keno, and I am the Director of Community Relations and Economic Development at Cal Poly. I am here tonight to express our strong support and gratefulness for the city's investment in the project at 1144 Choro, which will house Cal Poly's Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. This project brings new life to a long vacant corner and creates exactly what the city's downtown concept plan envisions: a vibrant, active ground floor that invites people in, supports small businesses, and keeps our downtown thriving. It will be a place where entrepreneurs, students, and community members come together, sparking ideas, creating jobs, and building companies right here in San Luis Obispo. A group of us with the San Luis Obispo Chamber of Commerce recently returned from a vision trip to Madison, Wisconsin, where we saw firsthand how much the city benefits from significant integration of the university into the community. That integration fuels their economy, activates their downtown, and creates a sense of shared identity. It's a model for what's possible when town and gown work together. Supporting this project advances several of the city's major city goals. It strengthens economic development by growing our innovation economy and supporting local job creation. It contributes to downtown vitality by activating a key corner with year-round activity, and it ensures entrepreneurship resources are accessible to a broader range of our community. The CIE has already helped launch dozens of local companies and hundreds of jobs. This new space will expand that impact. Thank you for your support of a project that brings energy, talent, and opportunity to downtown and helps shape the future of our local economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
No, the question.
Great, thank you. So with that, I do have a few comments with a few of our items, but I will wait till it's my turn to vote to put those comments in. Vice Mayor?
I guess just a comment as well. I mostly wanted to make sure that I pointed out and appreciated the Donna Dork Trust and Stephanie Mammis, who wrote us a very nice letter explaining the delivery of their monetary gift to our public art fund, $21,000 in the name of her mother. And I just was very moved by the letter and appreciate very much the impact that she and her family trust are allowing us to make in the community. And I think it'll be a very nice lasting memory in honor of her mother. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Marks?
Thank you. I'd like to move the staff recommendations for the consent agenda, except for items 6C and 6J.
Well, I believe we're keeping 6J in. There's a recusal.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Then just 6C.
Perfect. Is there a second? Vice Mayor?
I'll second that.
Great. City Clerk, can we have roll call?
Councilmember Marks,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Shorsman,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis,
Yes, except for 6J.
Councilmember Boswell,
Yes, except for 6J.
Mayor Stewart.
Thank you. Yes, and I say that I say it a little begrudgingly for 6J. I believe very much in what the public commenter said about integration of the city and the university, and I hope to see us strategically plan that as we go forward. The last probably 4 or 5 projects that have happened in our community with Cal Poly has kind of been, here, city, this is what we're doing versus that communication and integration. So based on what the money is that we're giving, though, it is really helping with economic development as we continue forward. It's helping businesses as we continue forward. And in addition, we'll get to share some of the space for our community for a couple of days a year. I do feel that moving one retail to another retail spot downtown to downtown doesn't necessarily increase foot traffic, but I appreciate all the work that's gone into this program. And I've talked to Deputy City Manager and City Manager as far as how do we have communication a little bit earlier in the process. So with that, I will vote yes, and we'll move forward. How about 6C? Who would like to first share their 2 cents on 6C? Councilmember Marks, or sorry, Councilmember Francis.
Well, I was just actually hoping we could have a little bit more information from the police department. I know that this has been something we've discussed in some depth in the past, trying to delineate between surplus military equipment and what defines military equipment, and so that we can give the community a little bit more perspective on what we're talking about here.
Great, thank you. I know that when this came through in the agenda forecast, I had said to the city manager, sounds good. The military equipment, it's required by law, this Assembly Bill 481. We've gone through this a number of times and we haven't purchased anything new, shared a great amount of information in the report about when we've used it and our regional partners who've used our different equipment. What I didn't realize as much when we were talking about the agenda forecast was the actual annual police department report. And I think it is important to give some of the highlights about our community to our community members and see how well we're doing with crime, but also the some things that we can do to continue to make things a little bit better. So thank you so much for being willing. Councilmember Marks?
Yes, thank you. I just think it's a great opportunity for the police department to be able to give us a little bit of in-depth analysis about what it is we're talking about, because there's a great deal of concern in the community and the country in general about police and the military and how those entities might interact with each other. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Francis.
Yeah, thank you both for your comments. I know that there was an additional ask inside of the report from this year for some crowd control equipment or kind of replaceable or expendable materials, and I would love for a little bit of detail on the nature of those and how and when we fit into the policy the use of those particular materials. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. If you have the time, we have a very condensed presentation that will hopefully hit some of those highlights. And of course, we're available to dive into some of those questions that you have regarding the report. Before we kick off, just to address the public speaker, we'll look into that. Certainly our intent's not to identify someone or certainly not shame them. So if there's an issue, we'll look and see if that inadvertently had happened, but happy to do that. Again, thank you for your time, and we'll be brief, of course, but this is an opportunity, again, to just visit a little bit more about our annual report, and of course, the 481 report, which we call the Military Equipment Use Report. Tonight, myself, Deputy Chief Schaefer, Amoroso will come up in just a moment. We'll give a brief overview of the annual report, just to hit some of the highlights, as you had mentioned, Mayor, and then again, just to dive in a little bit deeper on those topics that you do have an interest in. Some of the highlights we're happy to report to you is that crime is still low in our community, which is very encouraging. Violent crime, again, in our community dropped 14%, which is a great metric for us. But we did experience a slight increase, a 3% increase in property crime. And we'll talk a little bit more about where that actually showed up in the crime data under general theft. And then looking back over the past 4 years, I know that's been a comment from previous sessions is, hey, give us a look back a little bit further so we can compare numbers, over a handful of years, not just year to year. So when we take a look back over 4 years, we'll have a slide that dives a little bit deeper into that. We continue to see crime reduction greater than 20% and below, which again is really encouraging, seeing where we've been a number of years ago. So with that, we'll talk a little bit more about noise complaints. I know that's a key topic of interest, especially with Cal Poly coming back shortly. Not that they're the only source, but it is a primary source. And then also traffic safety, which continues to be a challenge for our community and of great concern to many several departments across your city, and how we address that as a team. Next slide. And so up first, I just want to highlight some important progress on our strategic plan. We've been very proud of our process in getting this going and the community engagement that we went through to bring craft really a plan that's reflective of our community and the hopes and dreams of all of our community members, as well as our police employees. The plan kicked off April of 2024. And so now we're over a full year into it, and we are over 25%. So that's good for a 5-year plan, and we're slightly ahead of schedule, which is great. As you may recall, the plan includes 6 overarching goals, 17 objectives, and we have 79 action items. So it's a fairly ambitious plan, but so far we're able to work effectively through all of those objectives in the plan. One of the things I want to highlight, or a couple of the things, we completed our staffing study, which the council has been gracious to implement some steps in that study to provide more resources for our law enforcement, as well as data-driven policing. We talked a lot about microgrids. For about 18 months, we talked about how do we police smarter and focus our limited resources where they can make the most impact. And that's data-driven policing. And Resource Router is a tool that you'll see in our annual report that speaks to that. CIT training, which is our crisis intervention training for all of our law enforcement officers, and that's providing additional de-escalation tools as well as mental health training, additional mental health training to all of our officers to the tune of 40 hours. This will be the year that will be completed for all of our staff. And so that's another really big part of our plan. And I'm really proud to talk about this next one, which is expanding mental health access and resources for all of our employees. And I'd like to give a special thanks to Deputy Chief Schaefer, who was very instrumental in building out our mandatory wellness check program. And we're one of the only cities, I believe, in the state that has a mental health check-in for all of the PD staff. And early report is that's going really well. And so we're going to continue to see good success out of that particular program. And finally, the 1106 Walnut, that's the remodel of the building next door to the PD. Very exciting changes happening over there. We're well underway with completion of those remodel elements November of 2025. So we could be in there by the end of the year, and very, very excited to have some much needed space. So with that, I'll pass it over to Deputy Chief Schaefer, and he's going to walk through a handful of slides on just some of the crime data specifically.
Madam Mayor, Council, my first time here. It's a pleasure to see you guys. Yeah, so I'm gonna
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I want to keep this conversational. So if you have questions, just ask instead of waiting until the end. That way we're not going back to slides. Just make it a little more cleaner. You like that? Awesome. So let me see if I can get this thing to work. It's working a little slow. So this first slide is just 2024 at a glance. As you can see, Chief already mentioned that this year, last year, violent crime went down 14%. But I want to shift your focus down to property crimes, just because that's, even though our total Part 1 crimes went up 3.4%, it's attributed to a lot of our general theft. And general theft just is shoplifting, bike thefts, stealing from vehicle parts, whatever, just a variety of different things. And so A lot of those things are being addressed in 2025 regarding using Resource Router and really targeting our crime in certain areas. And luckily, we have a tool for our officers who don't have to actually run any reports. The computer system does it for them. And it allows them to go out and spend time in those areas and know what specifically crimes they're looking for. And so each shift, 5 boxes pop up. The officers go there for 15 minutes, and it deters crime. The studies show it's about 3 hours worth of crime, and then another box will pop up in that same area. And so it's kind of this repetitive cycle. But we're also doing a lot of community outreach in regards to our social media, telling people to lock up their stuff. I will say, in the time I've been here, even though this year doesn't look like years past, at the same time, the students are getting better because typically that's a lot of crime of opportunities that happen in our community. People find themselves seeing a bike not locked and walk away with it. We've done a lot of collaboration and training with Cal Poly. We just did our slow days for the last 3 weeks. We did about 14, hit almost every new incoming student. And part of our conversation is their responsibility to the community. And also we remind them to register their bikes and all these other things that we can, if we can't prevent the crime, then we can actually go out and do something when we find their bike and actually know whose bike it is. So Chief kind of mentioned this, just going back and looking at the last 5 years. So from 2020 to 2024, you can kind of see, and this is just total Part 1 crime. So from 2022, we saw a 13% increase to 2021. And then as you can see, the last couple of years, we've had great reports as far as crime going down. And it's gone down almost 27% from 2021 to 2023. And so as you can see, this graph kind of articulates, yeah, we're up, but we know what that problem is, and we're working on those things to address those problems. And then going back to our applying, like especially our detective bureau with our SET team, going out and enforcing and finding those guys who we know are thieves that are in town, and just really drawing when we see an increase, because we meet weekly. When we see that increase that week, we have that team go out and do some enforcement, whether it's a probation search or whatever, to address that problem. And we recently we've been working with IT, and I think, Mary Andrews from GIS has created a wonderful dashboard that allows us to look at crime data from last week to last year to the last 2 years. And so using that data has really kind of driven us to find solutions in these areas that we've seen an increase in. Also in this slide, even though that 4.4% looks not so pleasant, in my opinion, it's really only 54 incidences that have between last year and this year as far as what's gone up. So from 1516 to 1568. So this is a little, I love graphs. I used to teach high school. So this looks like a lot. And so what we did is we took all the data from the last 5 years and we compared each of those years to 2024. And so you can kind of see that in the right-hand portion of that graph. So you can see, let's just go down to the total Part 1, and if you guys have questions, we can go to each of the different items. But for the Part 1 crimes, as you can see, from 2023, which is this year, to 2024, it's 3.4%. As you can see, from 22 to 24, it went down. We're at a 22% difference. And then from 21 to 24, we have a 24% decrease. And then from 2020 to 2024, we have a 14% decrease. Just one disclaimer on the council agenda report, we inverted some numbers, and we said from 21 to 24, it was a 32%. So we're going to make that amendment to it and get that cleared up, but it was a typo in the council agenda report. Traffic. So this is, again, this slide is set up very similar to the previous one, because I think this one doesn't provide as much perspective as the previous slide did, but you can kind of go through our increases. Unfortunately, with our collisions have gone up 31.6%. In the previous years, as you can see, it's always around 430. The outlier year of 2020 was COVID, so not a lot of people were driving. That attributes to that low number. I think a lot of it is Cal Poly's taking more students in, population's changing, people working remotely that aren't from here, who were born and raised here, new drivers. This is a tough city to drive in. I don't know, I was scared when my kid got his license because, driving around town, it goes, in the high school for that matter, it was a little freaky at first. So I totally understand that. And it's, I think with all the new drivers we get on a consistent basis, has attributed to part of that problem. The elephant in the room is the fatal collisions that you see. We had 5 last year. Previous years, it's not that far off from previous years. We've had 4, 4, 4, and I think there was 3 in 2020. And just to kind of give you some clarity to those, the vehicle collision was actually just one so basically a car rolled and there was 2 passengers that the driver and a rear passenger passed away in that incident. Drugs and alcohol were involved in that. The PED collision, there was one, was an unhoused person crossing Santa Rosa and got hit. It was raining, visibility was low. And so that PED, unfortunately, and it was nighttime, so definitely not an advantage of crossing in a very busy intersection. And then the bicycle collision was on South Higuera, where a drunk driver clipped the back of a bicycle. And that was a good case. That person now has a prelim coming up for the DA's office filed murder charges on that particular driver because she had a prior driving under the influence. And I want to make a note that obviously with collisions up, and we talk about traffic citations in our motor team, which, based on the staffing study, we don't have enough motor officers that we presented, several months ago. But we have seen a huge increase in our officers, not just our motor officers, but also our patrol officers writing tickets. We had a 38% increase. And, obviously with 4,600 site warnings, so we're doing almost over 10,000 traffic stops throughout the year. And some have been in education and some have been enforcement. Unfortunately, that did not help with our collisions, but I think with more presence and the more awareness, I think we'll see that number go down this year as we prep and make adjustments. All right, last slide is noise. This is pretty generic little slide, so I'm sure you guys are going to have a few questions regarding it. Obviously, it's been pretty flat for the last 4 or 5 years. And we actually, our noise citations, although our calls have been kind of flat, our citations were 180 noise citations that we issued and 336 DACs. Excuse me. The noise citations is actually down from the previous year by like 15. So it's not a huge drastic difference. But I think it's important to understand that what maybe somebody's calling and complaining about might not necessarily be a violation of the Muni Code. And so officers are going out there and assessing the situation and falling within the scope of their responsibilities and following the Muni Code. I will say that it's still a 50% decrease from 2010, and it's a 23% drop from our highest year in 2014, our last highest year. It's been a 23% drop in noise complaints. That is the end of our crime stat presentation. If you guys have questions or concerns, I'm happy to go back and revisit those.
The last slide, I have a couple questions.
Yep.
I don't know if we've ever really shared this. So I don't know if this question is really for this year or past years, but do you identify unique callers? So in the sense, if you're getting a great number of calls from a certain area or a certain household, that you can maybe work with the individuals in that area versus is it just all the calls?
Yes, we do. So we actually look at our data. Where is our highest volume? Who are the highest contributors? And then we try to match those to organizations. Is there a reason? So once we find what we call a hotspot, we also have a new crime map that we're utilizing. It gives us polygons, which is very helpful. And so when we see a zone pop up like that of an area of interest, we'll try to dig down and see, is this a house? Is it a collection of homes? What is contributing? And then we'll work separately with those groups to try to lower the noise volume or lower the complaints, do some education, or even work with the landlords if necessary to better police, self-police their own properties. But that is part of our intelligence piece that we do try to get to the root cause.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I've had some people share with us, well, we don't call because we didn't feel enough was done last time we've called, so we just stopped calling. How would you know there's an issue if they don't call you?
That's a very good point. And, a couple things that you've probably heard me say before that I speak to our community about: no call is too small. And we, give us a chance. And so sometimes somebody may call, think it's a noise call, and we're not able to write a citation. Maybe it's an educational opportunity. But the officers have a pretty strict threshold that they need to follow to qualify as a citation. And conversely, some callers don't want their neighbors ticketed. They just want them to stop. And so sometimes we're able to accomplish that with just talking to them. But I do encourage people, it may be the 10th time that's the one, but if we don't know, it doesn't feed our data matrices, and we're not able to do the things we need to do from an enforcement standpoint. So you just have to be patient and committed to solving the problem along with your law enforcement.
Thank you so much. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. I know we talk about these all the time, DACs, the disturbance advisory cards. But just for the general public, can you talk a little bit about what that is and what the difference is between that and a citation?
Yeah, so it's really twofold. One, we have our SNAP officers, our Student Neighborhood Assistance Program. They go out and they're the ones who typically issue a DAC. And what that is we get a noise complaint and it is a violation. It's essentially a documented warning, and that gets logged in our system. And the next time we go out there within a 9-month period, they get a citation every time. It then becomes a police-related issue versus a Student Neighborhood Assistance Program problem. And so officers do issue those. They have discretion to issue that instead of a citation. But I think in the end, the long-term benefits of them getting a disturbance advisory card, a lot of times these parties are, sometimes a small group of people that still meets the violation, and it's not worthy of a citation, but they still get this advisement card. And the advisement card has a lot of information on the back, so if they don't understand the municipal code, they know exactly what it says, and they can go research it.
Are those used specifically when you come across a noisy situation that someone's complained about, or maybe not, and you've just discovered it, whether or not it's students, or how do you decide when to give a DAC versus when to just issue a citation?
That's the officer's discretion. I would encourage, if it's, and we do proactively issue these cards. We go out, especially during the start of school, as we approach that, we're telling our officers and our staff to be proactive in the neighborhoods. And a lot of times the proactive work leads to a DAC because we're trying to prevent it from happening. And it's really a long-term benefit, right? So it's short-term, we can give them a citation, but long-term is go up there, have a relationship, build rapport with them, and then the next time we come back, they had a positive experience, and when we issue the citation, it becomes a lot easier interaction between us and the community.
And so that's a tool that you use. I guess my point is whether or not you try to focus that on students or not. You use the DAC tool, whether you know it's a student or not, just any community member noise complaint.
Yeah, sorry, I decided to cut you off.
Yeah.
Yes, it's used all throughout the city. There's not specifically for Cal Poly students or Cuesta students. They are used uniformity throughout the community.
Okay. And my other question is about the collision data. If you could go back to that slide. The bicycle and the pedestrian collisions, the fatalities are terrible, obviously, and sad and not consistent with our Vision Zero goals for the city. But I'm just curious, and maybe this goes without saying because you don't know what you don't know, but it seems to me that the PED collisions that are non-fatalities and the bicycle collisions that are non-fatalities, those are just ones that you know about and that are reported to you by individuals in the community directly to the police department, right? There's no other source for information about collisions. So it's probably safe to say that that's an underreported number because you don't know what collisions have happened that no one ever goes to the hospital or reports anything, right? You don't have another data source for that.
That's correct. We do feel those are underreported. I'm certain that they are, because even while many of these are bumps and, there may not be EMS, several of them are. They're more significant. But it's the same question that the mayor had raised is, they're okay, they dust themselves off, no need to call the police, but there is a need to call the police, because the fact that that happened informs not only our enforcement efforts, but engineering for the city, and does feed our Vision Zero plan. So if we're having incidents at a particular place, and although they're not severe and may not, warrant a police response, getting that documented is critical to understanding where the problems are actually happening. And so again, no call is too small, especially when we're talking about a collision.
So if someone gets up and walks away with a messed up bike maybe, or, without a scratch, you would still encourage them to call you after the fact and just report it to dispatch, and they would document it somehow?
Absolutely. And, we've had this conversation with some of our advocacy groups about near misses, and near misses are equally important. And they're harder to document. And of course, there's generally no legal recourse. But just having the information so that we're aware of where the hotspots may be occurring, that's very, very valuable to our enforcement efforts.
That's great to know. Thank you.
Great question. Councilmember Francis.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor. Actually had the same question. And thank you, Deputy Chief Schaefer. That was a great presentation. Was wondering on these collisions, we have all of this data capture now. Are we able to see if the trends are kind of moving in the same direction? It was unfortunate to see that, the pedestrian and bicycle collisions are going up here. Do we see that same trajectory for this coming year?
Well, I don't want to say anything too soon, but we haven't had any fatals yet this year. And so it is improving. A lot of it is kind of what Chief said as far as the reporting of things. So our traffic unit and our officers know where these incidents are happening, because it's very common that they're very similar locations. And so, yeah, so we're improving. And I think a lot of it has to do with how many citations we started in 2024 and how that's carrying over. And not only just the citations, but also the education that's happening.
Yeah, appreciate that. I've got a 12-year-old who's now making her way across town to Laguna. So I was a little disheartened to see the increase in bicycle collisions there, but really glad to see the increase in citations. So thank you for that. And I had a follow-up question actually to something that the mayor asked on the next slide after this. I was wondering, she had asked something about being able to trace individual calls about, an individual party or something like that. And I was wondering if it was possible to deliver data to us that actually looks at, if there was 6 calls about a particular party and we end up with 180 noise citations. Sometimes looking at these numbers and there's 1,400 calls, but only 180 noise citations, it feels like, what is happening to all those other parties? But maybe there were only 250 parties that actually had calls about them. So I'm wondering if we can look at the data for somehow broken out so that the calls are correlated to the number of citations. Do you understand what I'm asking there?
So like if 20 people called in the same party, the
Right.
number of calls, right? That's,
Reflects the number of citations that actually end up being issued.
yeah, thank you.
I think I understand. So obviously it's great to come back and talk about these things once a year, but we're developing some really impressive dashboards. Our GIS department has really done some amazing work on this topic just this past week. And so we're hoping to actually make that more available, where you can actually search, our community members can search and see kind of what's happening in their area.
Oh, excellent.
But I think I understand about the high frequency locations and what those outcomes are. So more outcome focused to particular areas. And then we'll work to dial that in before next year. But I agree. I think that's something we can provide.
Absolutely don't want to add too much of an administrative burden here, but if it's easy enough, it'd be really interesting to see how many parties that were called in actually resulted in citations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that question. I think just clarifying that a little more, so I appreciate that. And I have to say a big thank you also to GIS, because in sitting with Councilmember Marks during our ad hoc committee, which we're still working on, of course, I won't divulge anything, but the GIS layers and understanding where different parties are happening and through the different years was really helpful to understand that. So just want to also say thank you. Councilmember Marks.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the right time, but I'm really hopeful that we can talk also about the military equipment issue that's in tonight's item, because I know that there is a great deal of anxiety that we've only gotten a few emails, but conversations with people are concerned about possible militarization of the police and this kind of thing. So just briefly explain what the deal is. So thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Marks, thank you for that. If the council's ready, we have another set, a couple slides. If you have the time, we'd love to talk more about that.
No other questions at this time. We can move forward. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
So with that time, I'm gonna ask Deputy Chief Amoroso to come up, and he's gonna help assist on the 481 report. While he's making his way up, I just want to talk about a few key points around the 481 report, or as we know it, the Military Equipment Use Report and Ordinance. The law in particular, provides us to have a hearing. The hearing was advised publicly within 30 days before today's meeting, just to ensure that the information was out and that anybody that had a comment did have an opportunity to review our current stats as well as our current policy and to provide that commentary back to council. So enacted in 2021, the purpose was greater transparency and accountability for law enforcement. Assembly Bill 481 regulates the use of military equipment by police. The police department has followed the law in providing comprehensive reports to council the year it went into effect, 2022, regarding all the equipment that's defined as military, and that relates to the department's use and inventory of that particular equipment. As previously mentioned in years past, the department's equipment doesn't actually come from the military. And so it may look like something the military may use or carry, but the equipment that we use does not come from the military. It does not come from military suppliers that necessarily directly supply the military or contracts. And there is a 1033 program that it supplies surplus to law enforcement if they would like to use that equipment. None of our weapons and things like that are part of that program. And so I think that's an important distinction when we talk about what military equipment is, because there is a natural, kind of tendency to think that it's something from the military or we're sharing it with the military, and it's completely separate and falls under a whole different set of regulations, both federally as far as weapons are concerned. For clarification, I want to address one thing with the descriptions. You'll see in the report some of the descriptions and photos that are included in the staff report. Those are not ours. We get those from the websites and the information that's put out by the manufacturers. And some of that information, it reads like a movie trailer, an action movie. That's not our intent. That's not what we want. But the law is very specific, and it says that we have to provide exactly how the manufacturer advertises the equipment. And so you get to see exactly what we get to see in the public. And that's why it's kind of listed in the way that it is in the staff report. And then finally, before turning it over to Deputy Chief Amoroso, I just want to highlight the life preservation elements of these tools. And it's really easy to call them, military or kind of put them in a category, but the way we use them, it is all about the preservation of life and keeping people safe. And just to highlight, you're going to hear some examples, tonight of how the equipment's been used this past year. One was an active murder investigation in a community just next door. And then just this morning, we had a high-risk search and arrest warrant, again, in another neighboring community where these tools are vital for our ability to do this work. And so while some of the equipment might rightfully, I think, draw reasonable concern from our community, just as you mentioned, Councilmember Marks, the national landscape, really has a lot of focus on how the military is being used in local communities and what that relationship looks like with local law enforcement. So we fully understand how the crossover can be made, especially when we talk about military equipment and how that's being used at the local level. But we just want to reassure our community that our greatest tools are our policy and our management. That's how we make strategic decisions for our community and how this equipment is used. And so we greatly appreciate the community expressing concerns as well as the council and providing us an opportunity to tell you what is this stuff and why do we have it. Then the last piece is, this, and again, I just want to reiterate as we walk through the presentation, the sole purpose behind this equipment is life preservation. And you couple that with de-escalation and then you have an effective combination. The equipment on its own, is only as good as the policies and the people that are using it. And so I'll pass the presentation over to Deputy Chief Amoroso, who will give you a very high look at this year's 41 military equipment use policy and report.
Thanks, Chief. Good afternoon, good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. Thank you for offering this opportunity to talk about our 41 military equipment use annual report. As I've done for the last few years, we've been able to talk about the equipment we have and go over a little more specifics to the actual uses that we had throughout the year. Again, as Chief mentioned, these are tools that we need to have available to effectively do our job. However, we sincerely hope that we never have to use most, if not all of these. And I think you're going to see, that's better. You're going to see in my slide here that we were very successful in that endeavor this year. In 2024, SLO PD responded to 35,000 cases, a little more, 35,321. We deployed military equipment on 52 of those incidents. So that's a total of 0.15%. Of that, what I'd like to mention is the vast majority of these are drone deployments. As our drone program has grown, we're going to get into that in a little bit and show some of the types of calls we've flown on. But actual use of in our town on our case numbers, there was 2, which I did the math, it was 0.005% of all calls for service. So I think that's something we're really proud of, about how our officers de-escalate, and we're really utilizing these tools as a last resort when absolutely necessary. Just a couple of government codes here. We did not receive any complaints during 2024 regarding the use of our military equipment, and there were no policy violations related to any deployment. Here I'm going to go over just a little high-level overview of the different types of equipment that we did use in 2024. There was 50 deployments of drones, or what are called unmanned aerial vehicles. Those were for a combination of protest rallies and marches to give us information as to the direction of the crowd. Can we keep an eye on traffic, make sure that they're not heading to an area that may be dangerous, where we need to shut down traffic, et cetera. It provided scene documentation in some serious crime scenes, as well as the fatal collisions that we've had. They can be used very specifically to help document an overhead view. Fleeing suspects, missing persons, also the drones were used to help find those individuals. They're of course used on all of our SWAT activations for both either an overhead view or an interior search of a home. We have one interior drone, so if we can have an open window or make an opening in a window, we can actually fly the drone in the house, which is a newer style in the last few years, and it really provides an increased layer of safety for our personnel to be able to fly a drone through a home. Gives you eyes before officers have to make entry. So if there's someone hiding or a trap, et cetera, the drone may be able to pick those up. And we also used it again in early 2024 for creek checks ahead of storms. So we've used for a wide array of areas and types of calls. For robot deployment, we only had 2 deployments in 24, and they were both out of county. AOA stands for Assist Other Agency. It's an acronym we have. But one was for Rio Grande for a homicide suspect that was barricaded, and another was helping out Kings County on an attempt murder suspect. For uses for our Bearcat, is what we call our armored vehicle, those same 2 calls, as well as a local call here in San Luis Obispo, where we had an individual that was shooting a firearm at vehicles and barricaded in a residence, as well as in another Assist Other Agency out of Morro Bay for another homicide suspect barricaded. The mobile incident command vehicle, it's actually the same 4 calls that the Bearcat rolled out on. Those typically go at the same time. Moving on to 40 millimeter less lethal munitions. This would be a larger 40 millimeter round that's used like would be like a rubber round to use pain compliance to get someone to follow orders, or it can be used to do things like break windows. So in this instance, in 2024, it was used on 2 different calls. One was to break windows in a residence in Rio Grande, so we could fly the aforementioned drone into the home and search the home. If the windows aren't open, then that's what an example of making a hole so we can get through. And the second was for a disorderly suspect we had in town threatening with a knife near the Laguna Lake Park area, and we had to deploy, but it successfully subdued the suspect. Nobody was injured, and the call was remedied. Nothing to report for rifles, breaching shotguns, pepper balls, noise flash diversionary devices, or chemical agents for 2024. And just a slide here that gives an oversight of our annual ongoing costs for the program. These are fairly close in line with last year's costs. There's some minor changes up and down in several categories as prices fluctuate from year to year. There are some increased costs in the chemical agents and smoke and distraction device for this year as we had some changes in some of what we're proposing, and we'll talk about that here on the next slide. And I should mention all those costs are in our budgeted in our normal yearly budget. So for proposed military equipment, this is something we have to have on the report to come to council if we're looking at doing something new, not replacing a like-for-like item. And so there's a couple of different things that we're requesting as an agency. The first is to increase our launching cup inventory from 2 to 4. A launching cup is a device that goes on the end of a typical shotgun, and it allows us to basically shoot chemical agents into a home, a location. And so the difference would be without these, it requires generally a team of 2 SWAT operators walking up to the window, smashing it, and then putting a canister inside. So this allows a safer distance in order to enter that chemical agent into that window or room, if that's what we're trying to achieve. We already have 2 of those. We were just looking to increase to 4 so that we can cover more sides of a residence. Typically, we're trying to deny areas of a residence to force people that are barricaded to a more advantageous position for us to communicate with them. The next item is defense technology. OCCS aerosol, it's labeled as a grenade. I want to explain this is not an explosive grenade that injures anybody, but it distributes OC, which is like a pepper irritant, and CS, which is an irritant gas. This product has a significant advantage in the way that it's disperses the chemical agent. So typically it's done in a pyrotechnic method, which creates a chemical reaction to disperse the agent into the room wherever you put this item. But that gets very hot, and so it can start fires very easily, and that's actually happened many times in SWAT departments or SWAT operations across the country where rooms, homes have actually caught fire due to the chemical agents, the way they burn. If it lands in a shaggy carpeting and it's hot enough, it might ignite it, or if it rolls against a drape or something like that. So there's some newer products out there now that are using an aerosol instead of the same pyrotechnic. So there's virtually no risk of fire as the chemical agents are dispersed. And the vapor is clear, so it's not smoky. So when we enter something into a room, if we have an eyesight into the room, we want to see what the suspect is doing. And so having non-smoke environment gives us more information to understand, do they have a weapon in their hand? Are they walking to the front door? Are they grabbing something, et cetera? So that's a new product that we're looking to use. And then you'll see the last item there is an increase of an inventory of the a particular CTS, which is a brand 5230B. This is a riot control munition for chemical agent delivery. So what you'll see here is that we're requesting to phase out of the CTS and DefTech triple chaser model munitions. Let me explain what those are. when you're trying to, if you're going to deploy a CS or gas round into a crowd, what a triple chaser does is when it activates, it splits into 3 canisters that go 3 different directions, and then they disperse the chemical agent. So you know where the initial deployment is going to go, but you can't really guarantee where the 3 are going to end up. So it's a little bit of a less precise method, but it does allow for a greater area of chemical exposure because it spreads out a little bit. What we've also experienced in the past is those that are in a crowd that are generally, if we're having to deploy gas, are probably not following our instructions, tend to like to kick or throw the gas canisters back at the police officers that are on the line. So this now provides 3 of them to kick back at us instead of 1. So what we're looking at doing is going to this other model that provides a chemical agent, but it does not split into 3. It stays in 1 location for a more precise delivery. So we're not having the unknown of where the 3 end up, and now we may have triple the problem of what comes back our way. So what the idea here is to increase our inventory of what we already have and basically phase out those triple chaser munitions, which we would just use in training, et cetera, but not use them on calls for service. So in conclusion, on the military use report, we continue to maintain our inventory in good standing, as you probably saw from the report, although I apologize, it is extremely lengthy. But we're fairly meticulous in how we're keeping track of all these items. We don't have any significant changes to our current inventory except the minor changes we just discussed. We talked about the CTS and DefTech triple chaser munitions, removing them from use and just expending them in future trainings until we no longer have them in our inventory. Of the items of equipment which were deployed in '24, everything was consistent with de-escalation techniques and using the least amount that we possibly could to render a situation safe. And all of our current equipment, as I mentioned, is adequately funded or replacement if needed in our budgeted financial plan. So with that, there's some recommendations, but there's also, I have a slide for discussion, but we'll leave it there. I'm sure there may be some questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And one question, just want to go back to the 10 Defense Technology OCCS aerosol grenade. Is that replacing something you already have, or is that a new product altogether?
Thank you for that question. This is a new product. This did not exist before. Until we use it a little bit, we're not comfortable eliminating all other sources we have until we can have some proof of this works well. And if so, that might be something in the future that we say, yes, this is the go-to, and you know, a lot of new things come out, but sometimes things don't work as well as advertised, so we need to kind of try it and see how it goes, both in training and et cetera.
That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, any questions? Councilmember Marks.
Yeah, I'm just curious in terms of disposal of these, like the aerosol grenades or the other items that disperse chemical agents. Thinking about it from the point of view of the Integrated Waste Management Authority and what happens, are these items then considered hazmat, hazardous? Do you have to take them to a certain station to, like if they time out or if once they're used? What's the end game for these kind of agents?
Thank you, Councilmember Marks. That is a really good question. So a lot of these agents they can expire and do expire, and so the goal is to rotate that inventory. And the way we do that is we use them in training. So we'll use them on ourselves. One, to understand the effects, and then to also ensure that our gear can protect us in those situations. So we do not throw live canisters away because they can obviously create problems, especially when we talk about the pyrotechnics of some of these, but we do render them safe before they are disposed. And I'll defer to Deputy Chief Amoroso if I didn't get that 100% correct, but okay, he says yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Francis.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Chief Amoroso. That was really informative. I think one of the things that we keep hearing from members of the public is just kind of questions around how we decide when to utilize these kind of higher level pieces of equipment, particularly since some of them in the report were specifically mentioning like crowd control and things like that. Is there a place where we can direct the public to read a little bit more about the specific policies, or is that something we want to talk about right now? How do we decide when to use these things?
Thank you. It's a great question. Yes, on both sides of that. So first of all, if anyone is interested in our policies, they're all on our website. You can go to the city website, go to the police department. There's a link on the lower left. It's almost at the bottom of the page that has all of our departmental policies. And so they can go through and read as much as they're interested in. But it's a difficult question to answer concretely because every situation is different. What I can say is, as a police department, and we've shown through the hundreds of protests that we have worked and kept the city safe throughout the years, we don't use any agent or any of these tools without serious consideration and thought. And typically, things need to be violent to then realize we have to clear this area or people are going to get hurt, not only the public, our officers, et cetera. And so there are some thresholds. We don't discuss exactly what those are for obvious reasons, for tactical purposes, but this is nothing that's taken lightly, and we completely understand the concern that the community would have, rightfully so, because there is an incredible amount of trust being placed in a police department to have tools like these, to use them appropriately. And so I would hope by our year after year use and shown in our military equipment use report that the community builds faith. And we understand that you lose some trust and some goodwill when we have a protest and they have to be deployed. And I totally understand that that happened 5 years ago, 4 years ago, at the time. But we worked very hard to try to prevent that. And at some point, we have to do what we need to do to keep everybody safe. And so I appreciate the question. I think it's very much an extremely low risk, low use, and our policies are all there to help guide us. And we collaborate when we have those incidents with not only our chief of police, other law enforcement leaders, city leadership, attorneys. There's a lot of heads that go into making these decisions. That being said, we appreciate having the opportunity to have the public's trust to being trusted with this equipment.
If I may add just a little bit more to that. So, on the heels of, what occurred in 2020 throughout the country, AB 48 also, which was passed in 2021, provides more restrictions specifically to the use of chemical munitions in protest and or riot situations. And so we've adopted all those changes into our policy. The good thing is when AB 48 came out, our policy was 90% there and took those considerations already in the policy. The other part of that is this would be a critical incident. And so any type of critical incident, we're going to have a command and control structure with unified command. So those decisions to launch this level of equipment is going to come through the command all the way up to the chief of police, and could be even to one of you in a command post. I know you've been in that situation before. But in that situation, granted we have the time, those decisions are rise up to the highest level of the organization.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Shorsman.
Thank you. Thank you for that question, because that was definitely on my mind. I know when you read through this report and you read some of the descriptions, especially the manufacturer's descriptions of what these things do, and you start to scroll through the page after page after page of all these different types of things that probably the average person doesn't even know exist. And then you realize that your local police officers might have access to these, and you wonder if you're out at a peaceful protest somewhere, participating, using your legal right to protest as a citizen, that, you know, what are the decision points that are used to make the decisions about when these things are used. So, and unfortunately, I think it's not just the local community's trust in its own police department. It's what we see going on around the country and the behavior of other police departments that unfortunately I think makes folks feel less secure in their own personal communities. It's you are impacted. We as a city and the police department in particular are impacted by the way other police departments act, and that creates a public perception that makes people fearful too. So, so appreciate the thorough response to that question, as I was going to ask it myself. Just more of a detailed question, I guess, in terms of the numbers of each of these things that we own, you know, increasing from 2 to 4 or expanding the capacity, or how do we decide how many of these things we need? And then thinking in terms of cost and the annual budget, and looking at how many times we've had to use some of these types of equipment. We're not using them every year, it looks like. So how do we know how much of it we need, and why are we needing to purchase some of these things every year if we're not actually having instances where they're used?
I think I understand the question. It's a bit of an educated guess. One, we're not anticipating having all of these events where all of this stuff would be necessary. But we also have to account for the rigorous training that we do. And we bumped up our standards, especially for our SWAT team. And so we train twice a month to make sure that we're capable and ready to respond. And so in doing that, you're going to consume much more training materials, and that's where we see a bulk of this being used. The other piece of that is we do have to have enough on hand, because it's typically, if we have a major incident, it's just not one of these, it's going to be multiple, unfortunately. And if we run out, then we're calling another agency to come in with equipment that's not vetted or verified and things that you haven't seen that could be potentially utilized. And so making sure that we have the inventory to support anything that's going to happen in our city is critical. And so it may seem like a lot, but that could go really, really quickly in 1 year. And of course, depending on the scale of any one event.
Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. And, oh, sorry, Deputy Chief.
I was just going to add one other piece, is that the ordering of much of this equipment, it is not like you can go to Home Depot and pick up a couple more of any of these. So many times, some of these items we order, and it's a many, many months long process, especially because it's chemical agents, it's, you know, ammunition, other stuff. So it's not something that we can get in a week. So we have to have an appropriate amount on hand just in case. And anyway.
Thank you for that clarification. And I remember during our budget time, we had a lot of the conversation around how chemicals were going up for, I believe it was Public Works. So unfortunately, that's just a price cost that does seem to be increasing. Thank you so much to my fellow colleagues for your questions. And I will not repeat the same questions. It doesn't seem useful, but I appreciate your answers to our questions and telling the community what's happening. So with that, do we have a motion to receive and file?
What about public comment?
Oh, so sorry. Thank you very much. Do you have any public comment, City Clerk?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Sorry, it's hard when there's no one in the room. I forget sometimes the formalities. I apologize. Councilmember Marks.
Yes, I'd like to move the staff recommendation, and thank you for this very thorough report. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Do I have a second? Councilmember Boswell.
Second.
Thank you. City Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Marks? Yes. Councilmember Boswell?
Yes.
Councilmember Francis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Shorsman?
Yes.
Mayor Stewart?
Yes, the motion passes 5-0. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And we will have our normal next year, a more full report as we typically do. But I appreciate that our department is always willing to answer some questions when we have them. So with that, we have one last thing before we go to closed session. It's the liaison reports and communications. I have our SLOCOG meeting, my RTA meeting tomorrow. So I will bring you back information on the 16th. Just kind of going back to last couple of weeks. I was really happy to meet with the ASI officers, the student body from leaders from the Cal Poly, and their concerns are similar to a lot of our concerns around housing, safe and livable housing. How do we work with our neighbors, and then also just how do we get more advocacy and understand and learn as students. So really excited to see how they continue to shape through this next year. Also just want to say a great thank you to Natalie Harnett and Greg Herman, as well as Councilmember Marks and City Manager, as we continue to work on this ad hoc for the Town and Gown grand jury. A lot of detail, so looking forward to bringing that to you all on the 16th. I attended the Congress members Panetta and Carbajal Medicare Forum on Friday, and so did Vice Mayor, I should say. And this was a lot of conversation around how do we work with healthcare, how do we get increased healthcare providers in our area, around, of course, cost of Medicare reimbursement, cost of housing, cost of not as many people going into medical or medical school or other ancillary medical care. So definitely challenging conversation, and we have to continue to talk to our Congress members, let them know what's happening, let them know what's not working, because if they don't know, similar to our police earlier, if they don't know, they can't share the information and they can't continue to help us work through. One myth that I did want to share and make sure publicly in case anyone's watching is one myth that I was surprised to hear was that about 10 years ago, our Medicare reimbursement rate was changed, but it's unfortunately not enough to actually help our local healthcare be able to pay for the care they provide. And last but not least, I just want to thank City Manager for being a great partner as we went to Madison, Wisconsin. It was mentioned earlier by Courtney Keno. It was Cal Poly, it was Cuesta, it was the county, it was the city, it was private businesses. We all came together, and the school district, what am I thinking? All came together to hear about what's working in Madison, what's not working in Madison, how they worked with economic development, with businesses, and with the university. And I really look forward to sharing more of that here and feeling pretty inspired as to how we can continue to do what we do better, but also really thrilled to see what we're doing is a lot of what they had come to do. So it's a combination, a yes and. So with that, Councilmember Francis.
Yeah, thank you very much. On the 28th, we had Nacimiento Commission, and our pipeline is back up and running, at least the temporary fix. But the good news on that front is that the temporary fix has been obligated by FEMA, which means that hopefully reimbursement is incoming, which is really fantastic. We're working on the right-of-way for the permanent repair, so hopefully by sometime this winter, we'll have all of that ironed out and we can start to move forward with the permanent repair on that. We very briefly had the Nacimiento water online, and then actually we helped out Santa Margarita by giving them that water for a week while they were dealing with being the front lines for the fire headquarters up there. So now it is back coming into the city, which is really fantastic. Also, several of us up here attended the SLO College of Law's 10-year celebration, which was really fabulous, and what an amazing asset for our community, as well as our local leader becoming the head of the Monterey College of Law. So that's really fantastic news. And that's it for now.
Thank you. Councilmember Marks.
Thank you. Yeah, well, with the Air Pollution Control District, the audit is underway, and as the chair, I had a conversation with the auditor, and basically gave the Air Pollution Control District good reviews from my perspective. With the Integrated Waste Management Authority, there's a new clerk of the board who's been hired, and she has been she's been a clerk for for an educational institution, and Teresa Purrington helped Kobe Sky go through 22 applications and find the highest quality qualified person. So that was really good. Water, once again, the RAC meets tomorrow, so I will be attending that. We had a great city employee event on the 22nd, which I think I know everyone was there. It was wonderful in French Park. On the 26th, I went to, and with Councilmember Francis, to meet with some residents regarding the crosswalk situation at the corner of Broad and Murray, and I think that's moving forward at this point to correct it. And then on the 27th, this was with my Rotary group, but I had a chance to visit Jack's Helping Hands, and my Rotary's been helping them with the barn. They have a equine therapy program, which is just fantastic. If anybody gets a chance to go. It's amazing. And then on the 29th was the 10-year celebration of Lisa Sparrow as the new president and CEO of the Monterey College of Law, of which San Luis Obispo College of Law is a branch. And I've been working with Lisa and Erica Baltadano and Stephanie Medina to put together a letter of intent to get the ball rolling, to hopefully establish a community mediation center at the SLO College of Law. So that is going forward. It's going to go to the Monterey College of Law Board of Trustees on the 17th of September is the hope. So we're just pushing that forward because we really need the community mediation. I wanted to also just say that on the 17th of the 17th of September, it's Constitution Day. Once again, this is actually a holiday. We don't get any time off. But there's going to be, I will post this, and I'm putting it up on social media. It's basically a panel discussion about what is constitutional and the support of the Constitution. It goes on every year, but this year, San Luis Obispo College of Law is having a policy public panel discussion with a civics teacher, local judge, and a journalism professor. It should be very interesting. 5 o'clock on the 17th. And that's all I have.
Nice, thank you. Councilmember Boswell.
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to mention I had the last few weeks, I've had the opportunity to spend 3 mornings with the police department. I wasn't in trouble. I was there to learn more about our police operations. In particular, I got to spend one morning with one of our CAT officers and another morning with 2 of our downtown CSOs. Just wanted to thank Chief Scott for his time and for his team's time. I was very impressed with their professionalism and skill. They're very good at what they do. And, it was interesting to witness the enforcement of our laws, which is important, but I saw that being done in a humane and compassionate way. And so I just wanted to recognize that and thank everyone who hosted me. So great educational experience.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, I was happy to attend some of the events that my fellow council members have talked about already. The summer celebration, which was always a great opportunity for us to recognize our employees of the year and get a little more casual environment with our staff and see their families have a good time all together as well as the College of Law ribbon cutting ceremony. Great to see their new-ish campus. I hadn't been there before, but it's in a great spot and they've got top-notch facilities there. Also attended Good Morning SLO last week. Never a dull moment at Good Morning SLO. Always great presentations there. And I wanted to piggyback off of what the mayor said in talking about the Medicare Forum. You appreciate the myth busting. I think we have long heard many a person say that the reason that we don't have providers in this area is because we have rural rates, and that, as the mayor said, has not been, there is no such thing as rural rates, but there are formulas that are used, and some of the legislation that you were talking about is what created sort of at least an equal playing field to how rates are developed across the state. But one thing that is important to notice that they did talk about is that those formulas haven't really kept up with the rate of inflation. And so that's where the current problem has been identified in terms of low rates, is that they're not keeping up with inflation. In addition to that, I think the highlight of last week was representing the city with the grand jury, the new seated grand jury, that every year they get a presentation from all the cities. And thanks to Deputy City Manager Greg Herman for filling in for the mayor, where we got a chance to meet all the new grand jury members and hear presentations from all the cities. So it was a great opportunity for them to understand a little bit of how cities work as they go into their year as grand jury members, just to give them a little bit of context about what we do. And they all seemed very receptive and asked some good questions. They're from all over the county. Some live in unincorporated areas, some live in cities, and so they each had their own little area that they wanted to ask questions about. But it was a good 3-hour orientation to the cities in our county.
Thank you. Thank you for all the reports. I really appreciate it. There's so much going on, and we have a annual meeting for the 3CE. Will be happening in San Luis Obispo next week, I believe. Is that correct, City Manager? 17th next week. 2 weeks. Thank you. Math hard. Okay, so thank you so much. That'll be really interesting, I think, to hear about from our community and what's been happening. And with that, I will adjourn our regular meeting. We will. Oh, thank you. Well, our next regular meeting will be September 16th at 5:30 p.m. We have a few proclamations, don't you worry. And then we have a closed session coming up right now. If there's any public comment, this is the time. City Clerk, is there any public comment?
No, there's not.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Have a great evening, and we will see you on the 16th.